There is a story that has been used on two separate occasions to launch independent careers of two completely separate publishing houses. It is a story designed to innovate everything that can be spectacular about the science fiction genre, to showcase a unique and innovative heroine, whilst reassuring its audiences with a gentle retread of some very safe and familiar elements. Well, that is safe and familiar for anyone who knows about the strange and disconcerting world that is the British Christmas pantomime. Pantomime, for anyone unfamiliar with the term, is a musical comedy genre that often reimagines fairy tales or other aspects of folklore as contemporary farces. Outside of the United Kingdom, the term pantomime is often inferred to mean something like miming, which is a distinct type of performance art on its own. However, British audiences will be familiar with pantomimes which take that form of heightened reality even a step further than that. Common signposts of a pantomime are things like slapstick comedy, gag-laden scripts designed to make the audience groan just as much as they do laugh. Musical numbers might be scattered throughout the lead time, and often there's a severe amount of gender swapping between the actors' roles. It's a participation form of theatre, where the characters call out to the audience and make sweeping, incorrect statements, expecting for the audience to correct them. This form of fourth wall breaking can often be found when a monster or villain is seen creeping up on one of the cast, and the audience is employed to call out a warning of "It's behind you," to which the beast or rogue quickly hides before the performer turns around and declares extravagantly, "Oh no, it isn't," and the audience can then respond with a rejoinder of, "Oh yes, it is." Needless to say, this form of theatre is not for everyone, and often is only popular around the winter season, where thoughts of festive goodwill encourage actors and artists to abandon their good tastes in the name of Christmas cheer. It is not unusual to see theatres around the United Kingdom remain open purely on the profits that they have been able to earn because of the marketable actors who donate their time and talents to just a couple of festive performances around Christmas as a means of giving back to the community. But enough about the genre. What about the product? How exactly did a spin-off of a family-friendly science fiction series twice reshape the publishing fortunes of two companies by riffing on an endangered format of musical theatre? Virgin Books is a publishing company formed by Richard Branson in 1979, which grew quickly over the next decade with a series of acquisitions, including W.H. Allen and Company, which was a small family-owned business who, amongst other things, had made a name for themselves novelising and publishing every televised Doctor Who story in existence. Following the cancellation of the television series in 1989, fiction editor Peter Darvill Evans asked for permission from the BBC to produce full-length original novels that would pick up where the small screen adventures had seemingly ended. The new adventures ran from 1991 to 1996, and for the majority of that time a new book was published on a monthly schedule, resulting in 61 original titles to accompany the 156 novelisations and an accompanying spin-off series of 33 missing adventures that inserted new stories into past Doctor's lifetime. However, following the television movie starring Paul Cornell in 1996, the BBC wanted much more control of their publishing output, and they chose not to renew Virgin's licence. The series continued beneath the hands of the BBC range editor Steve Cole, and across the three publishing houses, this means that the Doctor Who brand contains the largest fictional series of novels built around one principal character in the world, and this has been recognised by the Guinness Book of Records for this achievement. However, Virgin did not feel that they were done with the science fiction genre, and they had ambitions to carry on the new adventures, even without Doctor Who. And so these carried on in the form of books, written by the first standout new writer that they had recruited, and starring his original creation. Paul Cornell had a chance to reintroduce future archaeologist Bernie Summerfield, who had to stand on her own as the avatar of the New Adventures brand, a series that continued for 23 more books and ran until December 1999 and the advent of the new millennium. And the book is fine. Very competently written, it zips along at a fast pace across 120 pages of dry wit and plot building. The story ties itself up very nicely,
whilst laying threads that will encourage readers to return for the future adventures of Bernice Summerfield. It spends a little time setting up the concept of a grand academic expedition, before the story neatly splits in two, one thread following Bernice's exploration of the self-contradictory pantomime reality, whilst the other follows the artistic extraordinaire Menlo Stokes as he leads the doomed expedition into the Perfecton tomb on the run from alien aggressors. One thread revels in dissecting and recreating every pantomime and fairy tale reference it possibly can, whilst the other slowly pads the nonsense out with the actual hard science fiction pulp. The book can be read in a couple of hours, and although no one would say it is author Paul Cornell's finest hour, it's very, very far from his worst. After the adventure is over, Bernice returns to Della, where she, Menlo, and the other academics had years of fun and discovery until the range was abandoned 23 books later, albeit with enough forewarning to tell an epic and destructive conclusion to the tale. And there it would have ended, a footnote in Doctor Who publishing history, if Big Finish Productions had not been looking to advance their own production company. In September 1998, Oh No It Isn't was adapted into an audio format by Jack Rayner. The format was changed, the story was abridged, but the anarchic humour and shining personality of its central star shined through. Big Finish produced 6 adaptations of the new adventures before deciding to move ahead with producing their own original Bernice Summerfield content. They had to select 6 of the best new adventures that they could adapt and rework to suit audio. And though it seemed strange at first to go for such a visually arresting concept as a universe in the format of a pantomime production, Oh No It Isn't was a standout release for the fledgling studio. Paul Cornell wrote Oh No It Isn't in 1996 with the working title It's Behind You, yet another popular pantomime phrase. The story was designed to present Bernice as a striking central heroine in her own right, and show that the universe Virgin had created could stand independently from pre-existing BBC copyright material. The story is deliberately adult in tone, in a way that the family-friendly Doctor Who could never be, featuring an array of double entendres and other rude jokes throughout, particularly from Wolseley, the talking cat who considers Bernice his servant woman. Such is the nature of human-cat dynamics that this feeling should be instantly familiar to any pet owner. The story revolves around Bernice and Wolseley's relationship, the inherent silliness of a universe-transforming supercomputer constructing a virtual reality around the rules of an ancient pantomime, and the ticking clock of an imminent explosion in the real world that will shortly kill everyone concerned. Short, largely inconsequential to the greater narrative, save for the ongoing fate of the regular cast, but perfectly judged to interest, excite and entertain. In the audio format, Lisa Bowerman's voice seems a natural fit for Bernice, and although this was her first foray into the part, she succeeds admirably. She is overshadowed somewhat though by the presence of Nicholas Courtney, playing one of his strangest roles, a talking cat. He clearly seems to enjoy the role, his voice perfectly suited to drawing Bernice and the listeners into a roaring adventure around the magical fairy tale land. He also brings a natural gravitas that is essential for one of the play's rare, sombre moments when Wolseley discovers his true secret identity. The rest of the cast fit together well, with Mark Gatiss as the Grand Vizier, deliberately throwing in an over-the-top, boo-hiss performance as the scheming villain. Added to the mix are a larger-than-life genie, an old exhausted king, several dwarves, a ladylike dame, and several tongue-in-cheek grell. No performance stands out as being below par, and all stand scrutiny under the warm panto light's glare. Perhaps the weakest area of the play is its beginning. It takes a few minutes to get into the spirit of adventure, but the scenes leading into the Grell attack on the ship seem slightly strange, as this is presumed to be the listener's first glimpse of Bernice. Showing her reluctantly seducing a student is perhaps not the best first impression. It's perhaps a little sad that the scene set in what is meant to be the real world appeared drab and lifeless compared to the meat of the production, which does not engender the listener to want to follow on with the future productions. This comes from the fact that the entire subplot of Menlo Stokes and the doomed academics left abandoned on the Perfecton planet is abandoned in the audio. Whilst the book benefits from having 2 main points of view protagonists, Big Finish did not want to dilute the launch of their new franchise by introducing a competing star. The exposition provided by Menlo was either wrapped into the main narrative or dropped as being a redundant extra runtime. The main plot of Oh No It Isn't is a delight from start to finish, despite deliberately undermining itself every step of the way with a tongue-in-cheek wink at the audience. However, at first glance this does not appear to be a good recipe for a successful series, but on this one occasion, the story manages to hold up as a whole, largely due to the exemplary performances from the cast and wonderful sound design that gives the play a deliberately creaky floorboard feel. It's a story where the majority of the cast suffer multiple identity crises, including the titular character, for the majority of the play, and the villain deliberately acts as ridiculously as possible just to appear interesting to the audience. Although this is fantastic, I am glad that it remains unique, and that although both the New Adventures and the Bernice Summerfield series continued beneath Virgin and Big Finish for some time, they both quickly changed their tone to something much more mature. Virgin Publishing continued the New Adventures range through to the millennium. They began to focus more exclusively on non-fiction, such as business, health, lifestyle and biographies, although they did have a sideline in erotic fiction. A 90% stake of the company was then purchased by Random House Publishing in 2007, which then spanned them into an independent group within Ebury Publishing, who still exists to this day. Big Finish Publishing used the Bernice Summerfield range as a proof of quality, and they won a non-exclusive license to produce Doctor Who audio releases in 1999, and then carried on publishing monthly releases and more besides of original audio dramas with 272 core Doctor Who titles on their main range published between July 1999 and December 2020, whilst also dipping their toes into other cult franchises such as Stargate, Dark Shadows, 2000 AD, and more besides. That is a lot of audio drama, and probably far too much for any one person to consume. Oh, what's that you say? Oh no it isn't? Oh yes it is.